A beautiful girl accidentally wandered into a place full of men. All of them wanted to take advantage of her. Even if they couldn't, they still surrounded her and teased her. Here, she had endless piles of filthy clothes to wash and dirty dishes to scrub. Once, she was almost assaulted. But she had a reason she couldn't leave. Not long ago, Jiwoo had been an innocent, carefree high school girl. Then one day, she realized that the police were secretly following her. Her father had suddenly become the #1 wanted criminal. From that moment, she became the most hated person at school. No one wanted to talk to her during class, and her desk was covered in cruel insults and curses. Even her teacher advised her to transfer to another school. She thought everything would eventually pass. But one day, someone poured chalk dust into her pen case. Her classmates immediately shouted that it was drugs and mocked her for bringing drugs to school. Furious, she confronted the class bully and hit her with the pen case. The bully fought back, but Jiwoo was already full of anger. She didn't hold back and soon defeated the bully, and then several of her helpers too. The bully still refused to yield and pulled out a knife. Without flinching, disarmed her in a few swift moves. Only after the fight did the teacher arrive. Jiwoo tore off her name tag and said she was quitting school. She didn't need to study in such a cruel place. She hated the heartless school, hated the police who had been following her, but most of all, she hated her father. So when she saw the birthday gift he sent, she kicked it away in anger. After returning home, she packed away everything that reminded her of him. When her father called, she accused him of bringing trouble into her life. In the end, she said she wished she didn't have a father at all. She never expected her words to come true. That night, she heard the sound of a key turning in the lock, then a gunshot. Her father had been shot at the door. Jiwoo tried desperately to open it, but her father told her not to come out. With his last strength, he broke the key in the lock. At the funeral, a group of gang members suddenly appeared. Their leader, Moojin, said he was her father's close friend. After paying their respects, they left. Looking at her father's cold body, Jiwoo blamed herself for his death. But the police didn't care. To them, it was just another ordinary case. With no other choice, she took her father's ashes to find Moojin, begging him to help her find the killer for her father's sake. Moojin asked, "And what will you do when you find the killer?" Jiwoo answered, "I'll take revenge." Moojin handed her a knife and told her to stab him. Jiwoo backed away in fear. He sneered, "If you don't even dare to stab, what revenge are you talking about?" Then he slapped her, trying to shatter her resolve. But she refused to give up. She began posting reward notices everywhere, hoping to find clues about the killer. One day, someone contacted her, claiming to have information. Naively, she followed them to a remote alley. The moment they met, the man stole her money. Seeing she was a beautiful young girl, they decided to assault her and sell her organs afterward. Jiwoo struggled desperately, but how could she fight 3 men? They threw her into a car trunk. Just when she thought she was doomed, the car was hit. She heard the sound of fighting outside. Then the trunk opened. It was Moojin, wounded, reaching out his hand to pull her out. He looked at her helplessly and said, "You'd better stay put. Otherwise, you'll die out there." But Jiwoo couldn't forget that her father's death hadn't been avenged. Revenge was the only thing keeping her alive. So Moojin took her to a secret gang training base, a place where new recruits were made. She was like a lamb thrown into a pack of wolves. Every man there looked at her with hungry eyes. Luckily, they were somewhat restrained. They just made her do endless chores and occasionally took advantage of her. What really upset her was that they refused to let her train. So she practiced secretly at night, though without proper guidance. Her techniques were chaotic and unrefined. Eventually, Moojin couldn't stand watching anymore. He began training her himself, teaching her how to kill, where to strike to weaken her opponent, and how to conserve her energy. He sparred with her, showing her how to attack and how to counter when she was at a disadvantage. Even when he couldn't train her in person, he watched her practice through the surveillance cameras. Jiwoo hardened herself like steel through relentless training. Every time she trained, she imagined the man in black who killed her father. She was killing her enemy in her mind. Her training was like fighting a life and death battle. Finally, the day came to test her progress. Mu-jin sat calmly on the viewing platform. Every year, the gang held the Iron Dragon free fight. Whoever won received $1,000 and a week off. The fighters went all out. There were no rules, only survival. Jiwoo showed no fear. Facing an opponent twice her size, she defended carefully, blocked attacks, struck weak points, and countered with precision. After a long brutal fight, only one fighter, Pildu, remained standing. As he went to claim victory, Mu-jin lit a cigarette and said quietly, "Look behind you." Jiwoo was struggling to stand again. No one expected her, the shortest trained recruit, to last until the end. Pildu thought victory was his, but Jiwoo didn't know the meaning of surrender. Pildu attacked with a feint, but Jiwoo countered, hitting him square in the face. Pildu caught her from behind, wrapping a chain around her neck. Jiwoo struggled fiercely as Mu-jin stood up in tension. Knowing strength wasn't her advantage, Jiwoo used her agility, employing jujitsu techniques to wear Pildu down. During a fierce exchange, Jiwoo managed to knock Pildu to the ground. Pildu tried to fight back, but Jiwoo feinted with a punch, tricking him, then spun around and landed a solid blow to his chest, knocking him unconscious. At that moment, Mu-jin proudly raised Jiwoo's hand in victory. However, Pildu refused to accept defeat. While Jiwoo went to take a shower, Pildu secretly put drugs into her cup. When the drugs took effect and Jiwoo couldn't move, she saw Pildu's wicked grin. The long-haired man slowly began tearing open her clothes. Jiwoo knew she couldn't just give in. She fought back with all her strength, accidentally breaking her father's urn in the struggle. She told herself she must not pass out, she had to stay awake. Her hand touched a shard of glass, and she squeezed it tight, using the pain to stay conscious. Just then, the long-haired man pounced again, but Jiwoo struck him hard, crippling his weapon. She escaped the dormitory, but Pildu wasn't about to let her go. He raised a hammer to strike her, only for Jiwoo to stab him in the abdomen. As he screamed in pain, trying to strike again, the instructor arrived. Mu-jin glared at Pildu and asked coldly, "Your face, your hands, or your legs, which one should I destroy?" Pildu didn't think he had done anything wrong. "I didn't even succeed," he sneered. But he didn't understand how much Jiwoo meant to Mu-jin, the stray cat he had once taken in and couldn't bear to see hurt. Without waiting for Pildu's answer, Mu-jin slashed his face with a knife. Meanwhile, Jiwoo was gathering her father's ashes, hating her own weakness. When her father was alive, she couldn't protect him. Now she couldn't even guard his remains. After that night, Pildu disappeared, and Jiwoo was forced to leave the gang. Mu-jin told her the man who killed her father was a police officer. To uncover the truth, she changed her name and infiltrated the police force. From then on, Jiwoo vanished from the underworld. 3 years later, a new female detective appeared in the police department, Jiwoo. Before long, she discovered that her father's killer was none other than the daughter of a powerful crime boss, who was now being praised within the force. But Jiwoo's real purpose was revenge. Shockingly, on her very first day, she found the true killer, her direct superior, Officer Cha. She recognized him because, after her father's death, she had seen his face through a peephole. Still, Jiwoo didn't act immediately. She needed evidence. Soon, an opportunity came when the police launched a mission. Their target was none other than Mu-jin. The police had learned that Mu-jin was heading to his drug manufacturing ship. Jiwoo wanted to warn him, but her phone had been confiscated before the meeting. With no other choice, she boarded the ship with the police team. The officers infiltrated the ship quietly, each wearing a body camera. Jiwoo couldn't find any chance to alert Mu-jin. At that moment, Mu-jin was inspecting the drugs when one of Jiwoo's teammates, Officer Min, spotted him. Jiwoo couldn't just let Mu-jin be captured, but what could she do? As Officer Min entered the cabin to arrest Mu-jin, Jiwoo knew that if Mu-jin turned around and got caught on camera, it would be over. Suddenly, a gunshot rang out, and the lights went out. The traffickers knocked over an alcohol lamp, and flames blocked Officer Min's path. Mu-jin tried to flee but stopped when he saw Jiwoo through the fire, pointing a gun at Officer Min. Only then did he run. Moments later, the drug ship exploded, vanishing in flames. Despite the massive operation, the police hadn't even captured Mu-jin's face on record. Officer Cha was furious and demanded to know who fired the gun. Investigators found a bullet and then the gun itself. When Officer Cha saw the scratches on it, he froze. Ju could tell he recognized the weapon. It was the same gun Mu-jin had given her years ago. Afterward, Ji-woo told Mu-jin that there was a mole inside the gang and that surveillance cameras had been installed throughout his company. Mu-jin quickly confirmed and had them removed. This action, however, made Officer Cha suspect that there was a traitor within the police. Meanwhile, a group of armed men stormed the gang's secret base, led by none other than the long-lost Pildu. He killed many people before Ji-woo arrived to find the carnage. She feared Mu-jin had died, but thankfully he hadn't. Still, when she tried messaging him, he never replied. Desperate, Ji-woo went to a temple to confirm his safety. Just as she was about to leave, she ran into Officer Min and Officer Cha. Luckily, they didn't recognize her. The police soon identified Pildu but decided not to investigate the gang fight. Instead, they planned to release a drug dealer named Mango as bait to lead them to Mu-jin. Days passed with no word from Mu-jin. Then Officer Cha announced he was meeting one of Mu-jin's people. Ji-woo immediately informed Mu-jin, who disguised himself and went to the location. That night, Officer Cha stood by the road with a newspaper while police surrounded the area. To get a better vantage point, Ji-woo entered a nearby building. But as she climbed the stairs, she ran into Officer Min, who had been waiting. It was all part of Officer Cha's plan to expose the police traitor. A fierce fight broke out between Ji-woo and Min. Min ripped off Ji-woo's helmet, but before he could react, she leapt into a garbage truck and escaped. Ji-woo was determined to uncover the traitor within Mu-jin's ranks. Ignoring the danger, she followed Officer Cha's car and soon discovered that the person sitting inside was none other than Mu-jin's assistant. Ji-woo immediately informed Mu-jin that the traitor was his assistant, but she advised him to stay calm and wait to see what Officer Cha would do next. The assistant quickly lost his position, though he was actually innocent. He had gone to the meeting place because someone told him that he could get information about Pildu there. Wanting to prove himself, he went alone. The note that lured him had likely been planted by Officer Cha. When the act was over, Officer Cha ordered Officer Min to keep a close eye on Ji-woo, since leaks had begun the moment she joined the team. The next day, the ballistics report came out. Ji-woo, overwhelmed with anger, burst into the office with a knife. Ji-woo had been ready to kill Officer Cha with her knife, after learning that the gun used to murder her father was a police-issued weapon. As she slowly drew the blade, ready to avenge her father, Officer Cha spoke with sorrow. He revealed that the gun had once been given to a rookie officer named Junseo. But Junseo had died within a month of joining the force, killed by Mu-jin himself. Ji-woo was stunned. Could Mu-jin truly have done it? But Mu-jin firmly denied it, saying his gang never harmed police officers, and warned Ji-woo not to believe anything Officer Cha said. Ji-woo believed him and refocused on finding Pildu, thinking that it would also help Mu-jin. Before long, they tracked Mango, a drug dealer, to a factory where they discovered him trading drugs with Pildu. Ji-woo and her partner, Officer Min, were about to move in for the arrest, unaware that they had walked into a trap. With a gesture from Pildu, hidden gunmen surrounded them. Pildu smashed Ji-woo and Min's phones and sneered that it was finally time for revenge. He had known Ji-woo had become a cop and had deliberately lured her into this trap. But that wasn't all. Pildu also wanted to take down Mu-jin. However, Mu-jin's men quickly overpowered his subordinates. Pildu wasn't worried. He had another plan. He sent Mu-jin a photo of Ji-woo and revealed the factory's address, certain that Mu-jin wouldn't risk his life to save her. That way, Ji-woo could die in peace. Meanwhile, Ji-woo was still pleading for Officer Min's life, begging Pildu to let him go. But the deranged Pildu refused. He locked them both inside a van and sent it toward the compactor. What he didn't expect was how much Ji-woo meant to Mu-jin. Wounded but determined, Mu-jin raced toward the factory. On his way, he spotted police vehicles. Officer Cha was also heading there to rescue. Officer Lee tried to stop Mu-jin, warning him not to go, but his concern for Ji-woo overpowered reason. He sped past the police blockade, crashing into the compound just in time to save her. There were so many things he wanted to say, but with Officer Min still conscious, he couldn't. Their eyes met, an unspoken exchange of worry and affection, before the sound of police sirens filled the air. Mu-jin, bleeding heavily, had no choice but to flee. Ji-woo was rescued but had lost a lot of blood and fell unconscious. Her prolonged coma filled Officer Min with fury and grief, as the underworld and the police both began a relentless search for Pildu. Mu-jin, fearing Ji-woo would be harmed again, planned to send her abroad. But Ji-woo refused. She had to capture Pildu herself. When she returned to the precinct, she unexpectedly ran into Officer Zhao, the man who had handled her father's case years ago. Seeing Ji-woo's fake ID, Zhao wasn't surprised. Later, when Officer Cha asked him about Ji-woo's whereabouts, Zhao claimed ignorance. When Ji-woo asked why he didn't expose her identity, Zhao dropped a bombshell. The man who had suppressed her father's case all those years ago was Officer Cha himself. Now Ji-woo was certain, Officer Cha was her father's killer. But what shocked her even more was discovering that Officer Zhao and Mu-jin had known each other for years. Zhao began extorting Mu-jin, demanding more drugs in exchange for silence. When Mu-jin refused, Zhao didn't live to see the next sunrise. His body was dumped into the Han River. Then, to everyone's surprise, Pildu resurfaced. He offered to cooperate with the police to take down Mu-jin. The police had no reason to refuse. A meeting was arranged at the docks. The moment Mu-jin and Pildu met, a violent fight erupted. The police, already stationed nearby, didn't intervene. They waited until both sides had nearly destroyed each other. When Pildu managed to lure Mu-jin away, Officer Cha finally ordered the police to move in. At the same time, Ji, who wasn't even on duty that night, arrived at the scene. Pildu fought fiercely, using the very techniques Mu-jin had once taught him. After several brutal exchanges, Mu-jin overpowered him. Defeated, Pildu began to beg for his life. But when Mu-jin lowered his guard, Pildu pulled a hidden knife from his shoe and stabbed him. As he raised the blade to strike again, Ji-woo arrived just in time and shouted for Mu-jin to run. Pildu laughed, mocking Ji-woo for bluffing and not believing that she would actually shoot. He even threatened to expose her true identity as an undercover cop. Within a second, Pildu was killed. Meanwhile, Mu-jin, who had just escaped, was caught by Officer Cha, who had been waiting nearby. But just as Officer Cha approached, Mu-jin's car suddenly drove off without him. He fled and eventually found refuge in a temple, where a monk saved his life. For Ji-woo, the first time she killed someone brought endless nightmares. Yet, despite her pain, she didn't go back to save Mu-jin. Not long after, she received a letter that completely shattered her. Ji-woo had joined the police as a gang member seeking revenge, believing her enemy was Officer Cha. But one day, she learned the truth. Her father had actually been a police officer. She froze in shock. Officer Cha told her that Song Jun-soo had been killed by Mu-jin. That's when Ji-woo remembered Pildu's dying words, that she knew nothing. The photo Pildu had sent her confirmed everything. While she was still reeling, Mu-jin asked to meet her at a temple and questioned whether her father had been a cop. Mu-jin didn't deny it. He said her father had been sent by Officer Cha to infiltrate the gang, but later betrayed the police and joined the syndicate himself. Mu-jin then led Ji-woo into the main hall, where her father's memorial tablet stood. He told her that unlike the cold and self-righteous Officer Cha, her father was loyal and full of feeling. Officer Cha, in contrast, looked almost pleased when gang members were killed. Out of anger and betrayal, her father had turned his back on the police, but Officer Cha, furious at that betrayal, had taken her father's gun and shot him. He then covered up the case, completing the perfect lie. As Ji-woo uncovered the evidence, she prepared to take revenge on Officer Cha. But before she could, someone else had already attacked and seriously wounded him. Ji-woo rushed to confront him, demanding to know if he was the one who had killed her father. That's when Officer Cha finally realized she was Song Jun-soo's daughter, Song Ji-woo. He didn't explain, only shouted in rage, "Mu-jin, you demon!" Ji-woo instantly understood the truth. Just then, her teammate arrived at the door. With his last strength, Officer Cha handed Ji-woo a backpack, urging her to run. She opened it and saw the truth inside. Her father had gone undercover in the gang and once saved Mu-jin's life during a fire. That made him Mu-jin's most trusted man and the gang's second in command. But one day, Mujin discovered a bug hidden inside a lighter, the very lighter Jiwoo's father had given him. Enraged, Mujin searched her father's home and found a typewriter filled with notes about recent gang activities. Furious over the betrayal, Mujin used her father's own gun to kill him. Jiwoo read through her father's reports. The final entry was dated on her birthday, proof that until his very last moment, he had still been a loyal police officer. After reading her father's final letter, Jiwoo's doubts vanished. She hated Mujin with all her heart, the man she once trusted, admired, and even loved. The betrayal from the person closest to her made her sick. Trembling with rage, Jiwoo pressed the hot lighter against her tattoo once more, searing the pain into her memory so she'd never forget it. Meanwhile, Mujin's assistant reported that Jiwoo might have discovered the truth. Mujin said nothing, but his assistant took matters into his own hands and ordered a hit on Jiwoo. She stayed calm underwater during the ambush, seized the right moment, and killed her attackers. Just as she was about to escape, the assistant appeared. He didn't attack right away. He wanted to confirm whether she knew the truth about her father's death. He admitted he wished he had been the one to kill him, but said Mujin always preferred to watch traitors die in agony. Like many before him, the assistant talked too much, and died by Jiwoo's blade. Jiwoo then prepared to confront Mujin, but in a shocking twist, Mujin turned himself in. The police accused him of killing Pildu, but he remained silent. He wanted to test Jiwoo's loyalty. When Jiwoo entered the interrogation room, her face was expressionless. Speaking as a police officer, she coldly warned him that no amount of influence would save him. This time, he wouldn't escape justice. But when she left the station, she secretly went to the evidence room, took the knife with Mujin's fingerprints, and threw it into the sea. With no evidence left, Mujin was soon released. Believing Jiwoo was still loyal to him, he felt secure, until he saw his assistant's lifeless body and realized Jiwoo had freed him only so she could kill him herself. Meanwhile, Jiwoo placed her father's ashes beside her mother's grave, ready to end everything. But she was discovered by her teammate, who tried desperately to stop her. The rest of the team hated Jiwoo, but Mujin intervened, ordering that she be released so he could face her himself. While Jiwoo was recovering in the hospital, the gang let her go. Around the same time, Officer Cha regained consciousness and told her teammate the truth about Jiwoo's past. Desperate to save her, he chased after Jiwoo and handcuffed them together, refusing to let her face death alone. As the gang assassins arrived, Jiwoo and her teammate fought side by side, defeating them together. Jiwoo and her teammate, Sojun, quickly drove away from the chaos. He took her to a small seaside cabin, where he carefully treated her wounds. Sojun shared that his younger sister had also been killed by criminals, and that he too had once wanted revenge. He told Jiwoo he understood exactly how she felt. Maybe it was the need to release emotions after narrowly escaping death, or perhaps it was the deep connection formed by shared pain. But that night, the two crossed a line and became lovers. Lying beside Sojun, Jiwoo thought of her father's final letter, his wish for her to live a happy life. Moved by his words, she decided to turn herself in and spend the rest of her days quietly with Sojun. But on their way, Mujin appeared out of nowhere and shot Sojun in the head. Jiwoo watched in horror as the man she loved fell lifelessly beside her. Consumed by grief and rage, she picked up Sojun's gun. Every nerve in her body burned with fury as she stormed into the gang's headquarters. Anyone who stood in her way met a brutal end. Finally, Jiwoo reached Mujin. He taunted her, goading her to pull the trigger. The two of them, like wild beasts trapped in a cage of vengeance, clashed in a violent, desperate fight. In their final confrontation, Jiwoo held a knife while Mujin aimed her gun at her. They charged at each other at the same moment. Jiwoo's blade pierced Mujin's heart, but his gun clicked empty. There were no bullets. When it was over, Jiwoo placed a photograph of herself and her father before her parents' graves. Her life of revenge had ended. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe and drop a heart if you love the series.